Good evening, and thank you for tuning in tonight to Chaim on the radio.
Without Chaim.
My name is Tova Chatzinoff Rosenfeld, and I'm filling in for Councilman Sara Deutsch here on the Talkline Communications Network. We are coming to you live on 6:20 a.m., and as always, we are joined by Dr. Faye Zakheim. Dr. Zakheim, are you there?
Tova, this is just way too exciting. I love the idea of doing an all-ladies show. This is like just too much fun. And we will definitely miss the councilman.
Oh, yeah.
But I am excited, and I can't wait to hear you do the show tonight. And I am right here behind you, next to you. So here we go. Thank you.
As Dr. Faye just said, it's ladies' night here on the show, and we have an all-female panel to speak about the issues of the day. I'm excited to be guest hosting tonight for Councilman Deutsch, and I'm even more excited to welcome some of the strongest Jewish women I know to join us on the show and offer their unique perspectives about the issues that we all care about. Before I introduce our guests, I want to remind our listeners that we are eager to hear from you. We encourage you to call into the show at 718-303-9090 and speak up about some of the issues that we will be talking about tonight. Now, I'm going to just introduce myself. My name is Tova. I've been working for Councilman Deutsch since 2013. I'm here in the studio every week during the show, but I usually prefer to be a behind-the-scenes kind of gal. But for tonight's program, I could not resist grabbing a mic to chat with some of my favorite role models. We are joined by Sara Deutsch, who was actually also on the show last week. Sara, people could not get enough of you, so we had to bring you back for more.
Oh, I get that a lot.
Sara is a mother of 5, a grandmother of 2, and she has worked in the education field for more than 20 years. The amazing thing is she doesn't look a day over 21.
That is definitely the truth. As
Thank
I
you.
keep saying that she's a grandmother, I'm thinking, not possible. You're looking at 22 years old, a very smart 22-year-old.
Thank you, Faggy.
Sara is also famous for her chesed, her listening ear, and her open door policy, which I can personally attest to because I'm at her kitchen table a lot. Sara, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
I think you basically said a lot of what goes on in my life, right? My kids, my grandkids, busy with that. Yeah, we do have an open door policy. Anybody that wants to come for Shabbos, for a meal, they're always welcome.
You make a killer chicken soup?
And a killer cholent.
And a killer cholent.
Yeah, so that's, on the home front, and I work. I'm out of the house. So we juggle a lot of things, the kids, the house. Chaim takes out the garbage. That's his job. He knows it.
Awesome. Well,
I'd like to add on, because Sarah's not talking about how much she hosts our Ragers on Friday nights and on Shabbos afternoons.
I love hosting Ragers. I love hosting them. They are the best meals. They are so much fun, and I'm so in awe of them. They have...
Sarah,
yeah.
As much as you love having them, they love having you even more.
I am in awe of them. They literally turn their lives upside down to become observant. Sometimes they're the only ones in their home that are, so they need to go away for Shabbos. And for them to feel comfortable in our house, they are always welcome. They know that. And Faggy, you are constantly hosting them too, and they bring so much joy to our lives, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I just was at the supermarket and I ran into Irina and Sarah, 2 of your Rage girls.
Yeah, and Irina's getting married.
I know, so excited for her.
Irina and Yuri are getting married. They're actually my profile pic. But Sarah, I have to tell you that I love having them, but you are serious competition for me. Like when they walk in, they say, Sarah is the funniest person. She's so smart. Like I'm thinking, okay, what about me? Am I funny too?
You are.
So I love it. I love how much they love you. So thank you so much. I love it.
It's always our pleasure to have them.
We are also joined by, and we're pleased to welcome Linda Sadacka, who is the founder of Moms on a Mitzvah. Linda is a powerhouse who runs an advocacy organization and a social media empire. And in her spare time, she spearheads international campaigns to draw awareness to critical issues. She fights anti-Semitism, and she's also a mom and a wife. Linda, are you there?
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what brought you into the world of advocacy and activism?
My trip began when I was 19. My brother's best friend's brother was killed by Hamas. I just saw how it affected the family close up. It's not just a name; it's like a person, a family, and it affected me so much that from that point forward, I just delved into advocacy, but really helping anyone that needs it, because if God gave you, whether it's the talents to speak or to network, whatever it is, if you can do something to help people, then I feel that that's what your mission has to be, and that's pretty much what my mission has been since I'm 19. And I'm about to be a grandma.
Oh, how exciting!
so that we'll just keep going from that point forward. But needed to rectify the grandma to glamour. Sorry, I think you should take that too.
I think so too. I wanted to go with goddess, but nobody agreed, so I went with grandma. But I like that. Lindsay. I think I'm going to steal that from you.
My friend Siggy Flicker told that one to me, so I'm stealing it off her. I have to give credit where credit is due.
Linda, I remember walking into the studio the first time that I met you, and you were sitting over there, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, Councilman Deutsch just brought in eye candy. There's no way that this girl is going to... And then you started talking. That's what I thought, And then,
you're so cute.
I mean, you're just so beautiful. And then you started talking. And then your passion for the work that you do and how much you accomplish. I'm just in awe of you. So, I think Glamour is great.
Both ways.
I think you're just amazing. I love the work you do. I love your passion, and I love the way you look. Oh, my God.
You're so sweet.
Linda, thank you so much for being here. We are also honored to welcome Allison Josephs, who is the founder and director of Jew in the City. Jew in the City is an organization on a mission to change people's misconceptions about Orthodox Jews. In her quiet but powerful way, Allison has changed the lives of so many. Allison, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sure. So I grew up as a proud conservative Jew. I grew up in New Jersey, and we would go to New York City about once a month to go out to eat or to see a show. And I was raised with a lot of negative feelings about the Orthodox community, and I remember seeing Orthodox Jews on the street and just feeling like they're so weird, they're so different, they're so backwards, almost feeling ashamed of them. And when I was 8 years old, a father in my school murdered both of his children and then killed himself, and suddenly this sort of happy, secular Jewish life my parents had raised me in didn't make sense anymore, because all the stuff that they told me to work towards were all just goals in this world, and I realized that I had no spiritual framework and no spiritual goals and nothing to make sense of the fact that life is finite. So I began many years of trying to find what I'm doing here, and Baruch Hashem, I connected with some Frum Jews around 16 years old, and I made a journey to observance. I dragged my whole family along with me, and I felt like I wanted to correct those misconceptions that I was raised with. And I saw social media was a vehicle to broadcast a message that most people weren't hearing.
Wow. Allison, you're very inspirational. We're really, really lucky.
I'm going to jump in again. I'm sorry that I keep doing this. I just can't believe this panel that you put together, Tova. It's like one person after another. That's amazing. Allison, also, I met you and I was thinking, oh, cute girl. And then I started listening to you and the passion and the work that you do. And then the most mind-blowing experience, Tova, I and the councilman attended your program.
Yes.
And we were just blown away. We sat there, and it was one all-star after another, and we felt like we were sitting at the Academy Awards.
That was the idea.
That's how we felt. Yes. We felt so proud to be there, and we feel so proud of you.
Thank you.
You may have grown up conservative, but what you've done is you've taken this beautiful religion that we have, this beautiful way of being Frum and Orthodox, and you have brought us to this level. You've kind of combined them both together, and it's really, really beautiful, and we're very grateful. And I think you're the greatest Kiddush Hashem, because you're a beautiful Orthodox Jew, and we're very, very proud of you. Very proud. So thank you for being Allison. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last panelist that we're going to welcome, Yelena Makhnin, is the executive director of the Brighton Beach Bid. She's been a fixture in Brighton Beach and beyond for more than 20 years. Yelena's powerful advocacy has been an asset to our community as she fights for small businesses and as she combats anti-Semitism. Yelena, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, good evening. I'm an immigrant of Kyiv, Ukraine, Russian-speaking Jew. Happy to be part of extended Deutsch family. Mother of 2, grandmother of 3.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And I know that our listeners are as excited as I am to hear from these amazing women. We're going to take a really quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back with Dr. Faye, Sara, Linda, Allison, and Yelena. So stay tuned.
Listen, enjoy.
Thank you for tuning in to
TCN Talkline Communication.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. You're listening to Chaim on the radio, minus Chaim, and my name is Tova Rosenfeld. I am filling in tonight for Councilman Chaim Deutsch, along with my co-host, Dr. Faye Zakheim, and we're joined by Sara Deutsch, Linda Sadacka, Allison Josephs, and Yelena Makhnin. Let's dive right into things, and I want to talk about mental health during COVID. A couple of months ago, Dr. Faye took some time during the show to talk about self-care during these challenging times. Even as the city reopens, the impact of COVID continues to linger. Many people, unfortunately, are still out of a job. Some people have their kids at home because a lot of camps were canceled. And Dr. Faye, I wonder if you could speak a little bit about the importance of taking care of ourselves and taking care of our mental health during these times. And ladies, feel free to jump in.
Hi, Tova. I think that's such a great question. I love that. So we're living in very, very challenging times. It's challenging. Ordinary people are being challenged. We're challenged with COVID, with illness. We're challenged with demonstrations that are going on. We're afraid of violence. The media only gives us negative things to look at. There's no positivity in the media. And, you know, you open up the news, you open up a newspaper, you look at your WhatsApp, and all you're seeing is negativity, negativity, negativity. Of course you're going to start drowning in negativity. How can anybody stay positive when all they're seeing is negativity? So let's talk about that. What do you do? What do you do to move away from the negativity and move into a positive place? So you're going, that's self-care. You're going away from the negative and you're going toward the positive. And going away from the negative means diverting your attention. That means creating boundaries, saying to yourself, okay, I'll look at the news, I'll look at the media, I'll look at what's going on, but within a certain amount of time, a very short amount of time. And then after that, you shut it down. And what do? You divert. You go to dance, you go to exercise, you go to listening to music, you go to being with friends. Do not isolate yourself. Make sure you're around very positive people, because research shows that if you hang out with positive people, you will be positive. Research shows if you drown yourself with negative people, you'll be negative. And our whole goal is about self-care. We want to create a balanced life. We want to give good energy to people, the kind of energy you give, Tova, to people, the kind Allison gives, the kind Linda gives, the kind Sara gives, and Yelena. We want to give positive energy, and the only way to do that is to go to positive things. So self-care, it's about finding that thing that you love to do, whatever that is, whether it's reading, whether it's music, whether it's exercise, whether it's dancing, whether it's just about being with your friends, whatever it is, go to that good place. That's all I can really say. And everybody knows what that good place is for them. I'm sure if you ask each of these amazing ladies that you have on the air tonight, each of them will tell you that they have found a positive place for themselves, even though their work is submerged in very difficult and challenging work. So go ahead, ask them. I bet you each one of them will have something that's amazing that they do.
It's so true. I was just thinking about this as you were talking. Last week, for like the first time ever, on a weekday, I sat down and read a book for about a half hour, which I never do, and I felt like a different person. I felt relaxed and calm. So you're totally right. If you find something that you love to do, it really is very calming. Allison, what do you do to relax?
I was just thinking, I like to go get massages, but that was not really like a COVID thing. I like to get mani-pedis, but that was not a COVID thing. And they did actually recently just open that up. And the truth is that even as those things were missing, I actually kept making lists for myself, going through with my husband. Look how fortunate we are, and sort of waking up my day, sort of listing all that we still have. Even at the beginning when it was can we get chicken for Shabbos? Well, they run out of food, and it was sort of that really panicky time. I was still going through, and I was saying to my kids, look at how we have this, we have this, we have this. Okay, we don't have that. We have this, and we have this. The other thing, sort of moving aside from the self-care thing, because some of those things are for some of us, we like to have them out of the house. You might not be able to have them available. I would say another thing to add on to that is give yourself a break. We were doing the homeschooling stuff with the kids and screens, and the kids miss some classes sometimes. And my husband and I are both working full time, and we're trying to do our best. And sometimes they miss a class because we just miss the time, and we don't beat ourselves up. And you know what? Sometimes my kids were on screens and watching a lot of videos in the middle of all this, and I don't think that they're going to be permanently damaged from this. I think that we're in a really challenging time. And if, things are not your ideal in the middle of a pandemic, that's okay. It's a pandemic. So I would say not just the point about self-care, but also, cut yourself some slack. Stop being so self-critical.
I love that.
Amazing. That's fantastic. I love it.
That's awesome. One thing that everyone on this panel has in common is that you all work in different capacities to fight anti-Semitism. In fact, today I actually saw a post on Linda's Instagram about a popular clothing brand that is selling swastika-themed jewelry. Linda, when you're faced with something like this, how do you galvanize the troops to fight back?
So first off, it's extremely crucial to counter anti-Semitism, intolerance, racism before it goes any further and spills on into the streets, and you see that when it manifests into the Rottenberg shul attack or the Jersey attack or so forth and so on. So calling it out right away is extremely important, number one. How we do it on social media is I post the phone number or the contact information, and I tell the troops, come on guys, let's start calling, letting them know that we're going to hit them where it hurts, which is profits. If you're going to be selling this item, which we think is very offensive, we will not be patronizing your store anymore. And that usually does the trick. We've done it in the past. In fact, I'm sure you know, Tova, and for those who don't, we've gotten Forever 21 to remove swastika items a few years back.
I remember that.
We had a few posts shut down on Instagram by galvanizing the troops in the same way to reporting, the offensive post, and it's just something that we've done reoccurringly in the past, couple of years, and we'll just continue doing it until, unfortunately, it's always going to be an issue, but we'll just keep doing it. We have to.
Exactly.
Linda, I got to tell you, Linda, I'm so grateful for you for doing that with Forever 21. Yeah, my mother is a Holocaust survivor, and I will tell you that those swastikas, they trigger her in such a terrible way. She's a very positive person. She's very optimistic. But that swastika thing that shows up sometimes, the things you fight against, you have no idea what that does to her. So I'm sure it's not just me that's grateful to you. It's all of us. It's all of us Holocaust second-generation survivors that are 100%. So grateful that you continue to eradicate those terrible things that just trigger us in a really bad way. So thank you.
Of course. Listen, we call out racism of any form. So I would do it, for the black community. I would do it for the Muslim community. I would do it for any community. And obviously our community is no different.
Beautiful. Thank you, Linda. All of our lines are ringing off the hook, so we're actually going to take a question. Hold on. You are on the air. Hello?
Me?
Yes,
Hi,
you.
I have questions. One I have for Tova and one I have for Allison. Tova, I was wondering, what is your favorite, I know you've been working with councilmen for a number of years now, and I was just wondering what your favorite part of it is, because it seems like such a diverse, exciting opportunity, and I was just wondering what you enjoyed the most.
I think it was getting to meet me.
Yes.
I think that's what
that was definitely it.
Okay, well, that was easy enough.
And what was your question for Allison?
For Allison, I was wondering, what would she say is the biggest misconception that secular Jews have about the frum community? The community at large, even. What do they think that?
I would say if you could boil a lot of sort of subcategories into a larger category, it's that these rules are meaningless and restrictive. Because once I say that, then I can break it down to all the different things they're talking about. But essentially, they see us as backwards and tied to these ancient traditions that have no purpose or value. We are trapped. We can't get out. I remember feeling so badly for one of my Hebrew school teachers, and I remember thinking, like, I could eat bacon and you can't. So they pity us. They pity us that our lives are so not free, and they have no idea the meaning that exists within, Jewish rituals and Torah wisdom, I would say there's a certain freedom of living your life in a meaningful way, meaning when you're just floundering in an ocean without any direction, well, you're totally free, but you're also directionless. When you have your roots in the ground, and you do have some boundaries, but then you have a place to go and you have a purpose to it all, I would say that a freedom to live with purpose is so much more freeing than what I lived before I became observant. But it's really, they look at us and they say never, basically.
Allison, thank you for that answer, and thank you to that caller for the question. I actually just thought of a question that I wanted to ask to the panel, and Yelena, I'm going to start with you. Have you ever been a victim of anti-Semitism, or have you ever witnessed anti-Semitism? And if yes, what did you do? How did you react?
Of course, yes. I came from Kyiv. I used to live 3 bus stops from Babi Yar. It was a place where my grandparents took me first time when I was 3 years old. When I came to the United States, I thought I would never see it and hear it again, but unfortunately, was not the case. What I do, I call it out. I talk to people. Where I work on Brighton. It's not Russian Brighton anymore. It's multi-ethnic, multicultural place, and we all get along. And what I usually do, I talk to people. And I explain what it's all about, because many, especially young individuals who are drawing swastikas, who are telling stories that are not true, I believe it's a lack of education. So since our, especially public school system, does not pay enough attention to the Holocaust and history of Jews, I'm trying to be an education. That's what I do.
Actually, you just reminded me of something that I was talking to Sarah about during the break. There was this, I think, a football player.
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson?
Yes, who had posted something on, I guess, Facebook or Instagram this week quoting Hitler.
Yeah, he quoted Hitler, and they say that it's not even a real quote, that Hitler did not say this, but he was quoting about Jews and they're going to take over, and I don't remember the exact words he used, but basically is that we put blacks down. We're trying to hold them down, and we're white Jews. And then he gave an extremely disingenuous apology on Twitter, where he writes about how he shared on his social media, and he apologizes, and he was looking to uplift, unite, and encourage. Now, I'm not really sure who thinks they uplift and encourage people when you don't do that when you're putting one type of person down, and when you're putting people into boxes and you're typing them, that's racism. And when you're doing it against Jews specifically, that's anti-Semitism. And nobody called him out on it. He gave his apology. Nothing happened. There was no cancel culture involved, and I think it's wrong. And you know what? If racism is wrong for one type of person, racism is wrong for another type of person. and that's just the way it is, and he seemed to get away with it, and it was very bothersome to me.
So I actually wrote about this. You can see it now on JewInTheCity.com. This was highlighted to me, I guess, maybe 2 days ago in the afternoon, and I was trying to collect my thoughts about why are things different for Jews and every other minority, because, I mean, there's nothing that you can say nowadays that people, might not jump down your throat and end you forever, and yet somehow...
Yes.
And it's not
Except
just
for
Deshaun
anti-Semitism.
Jackson. Correct.
Except when it's anti-Semitic, yeah.
Correct. So Deshaun Jackson shared this. Diddy, who is a rapper with 17 million followers, has been sharing Farrakhan, as has Chelsea Handler. There are numerous celebrities recently, and then even after Deshaun Jackson apologized, a former NBA player named Steven Jackson dug in his heels, and he said he wasn't wrong. He was just speaking his truth.
Wow.
So it's not just actually an isolated event. There's more and more of this. Another rapper called Ice Cube has been posting some very negative anti-Semitic posts. So I had an interesting conversation over the weekend with a black man that I met through Jew in the City, who's interested in black and Jewish, building bridges and understanding each other. And we were talking about the different traumas that our people have been through and what's similar and what's different. And I explained to him that Jews don't feel secure. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, I know it may seem like we, have done well and we are educated and we have great jobs and, a lot of us live with privilege and we don't live with gang violence and we could, take off our yarmulkes if we wanted to and blend in. So while it looks like that from the outside, the problem is that we don't feel like it's going to last. We have been expelled, massacred, mistreated in every land that we've lived in. And as Jews, we know this. This is really like the breast milk that we're raised with, that we are not at home. We are in Gullus right now, and I tied it to the 3 weeks, that this feeling of there's always a different standard for the Jews. I actually look to this as a point of emunah. I know it's troubling, and we have to call it out. But at the same time, when I see the rules are never the same for us, I look at this and I say, even if we don't feel like being singled out, Hashem continues to single us out. And that we have to make people realize that while we may look secure and privileged from the outside, underneath, behind the scenes, all of us have all been told by our parents what happened in previous generations. And we all have this idea that we may need to pack our bags one day and run again.
Yeah, and there's nothing that's a stronger reminder than the rising anti-Semitism, particularly in New York, that our community has been experiencing for the last couple of years. It's a very good point, Allison. We're actually going to take another caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, this is Jack Pleshnik. You guys might know me. You guys might know
Jack.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, guys.
Jack works, for our listeners, Jack actually works for Councilman Deutsch as well. He's his legislative director.
Yeah, and I just want to tell everybody who's listening, first of all, before I ask my question, that I know about everybody on this panel, and they're all amazing people, and they do every single one of them does such amazing work in their own field. But I have a question specifically for one of the panelists who I know the longest, the First Lady of the 48th Council District.
Yeah, Jack and I go way back to high school.
Way back. And I can tell you that when I did know Sarah from high school, she was incredible in what she did at the school. So my question is this. How is it that you effectively balance the work you do professionally and your family life so well?
I don't really think about it. I just do it. I know what I have to do. I know what my job is in the house, out of the house. And, you just have to get it done. You have to, work, I guess, from the most important back, and you prioritize what you need to do for the day, and you get it done. And sometimes it's exhausting. You can't do it all. I think, who is it that said before that, you can't be hard on yourself? I think it was Allison. Sometimes you just don't get it all done in one day. And sometimes, my saying is you can have it all, but sometimes not at the same time. So
I like that.
Yeah, so if one day you didn't get something done, believe me, if there's a dirty dish in the sink when you go to sleep, nothing's going to happen. If you give the kids tuna fish for lunch twice, days in a row, nothing's going to happen. You just have to learn to juggle with with what's important. Take a deep breath and move on.
Right.
That's great advice.
And
Sorry,
thank
you're
you
a
for
master
your
at
question,
that.
Jack Plushnick.
And just to clarify, you were not in high school together.
No, we were not.
Thank you for calling, Jack. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking again with Dr. Faye and Sarah and Linda and Allison and Yelena. If you'd like to call in, our number here in the studio is 718-303-9090.
Click, listen, enjoy.
Thank you for tuning in to
TCN, Talkline Communications Network Radio, America's #1 Jewish program.
By popular demand, the original 8:30.
Thank you for tuning in to
TCN, Talkline Communications Network Radio, America's #1 Jewish program.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. You're still listening to Chaim on the radio. My name is Tova Rosenfeld, and I'm filling in tonight for Councilman Chaim Deutsch, along with Dr. Faye Zakheim. We're also joined by Sara Deutsch, Linda Sadacka, Allison Josephs, and Yelena Makhnin. So while we were just on the commercial break, Sarah and I were talking about last week. What Sarah actually talked about on the show was how we went down to One Police Plaza in City Hall during the protests when they were passing the budget that defunded the NYPD. And we were talking about this whole situation. It's a very anti-police atmosphere out there. And one of the things that some people in our community have been doing is stopping by the precincts to thank the cops. We actually, Sarah and I went with Councilman Deutsch 2 nights ago to the 770 precinct, and the councilman spoke with the cops, and he thanked them for what they're doing. And I know, Linda, you went to one of the precincts this week as well, right?
Correct. Yes, we did. A group of us went together, and they were so appreciative. I'm so happy. It made my week to be there.
That's so great. When I was there, I could sense that the cops were very, under a lot of pressure, because there's a lot of criticism for them, and it's nice for them to hear a thank you once in a while.
It is, and they 100%. Came over to talk to us after Chaim addressed them. They came over and they were talking to us about the way they feel, and I think that they just want everybody to know that they're human beings. They have families, they have feelings, they have a job to do. It's not an easy job. They're underpaid, they're overworked, and Chaim talks a lot about fair market pay. They deserve it. They put their lives on the line every single day to defend us, to protect us, so that we're safe. And they're in the line of fire. And I think they're not viewed as human beings by people. They're like the police. They're like a name, and they're all put together in this one basket, and nobody views them as each single person. And they were extremely appreciative of the fact that we came and we talked to them and we let them know that we're there for them and that we feel for them.
I totally agree. And one of the things that you mentioned on the show last week, Sarah, was about the diversity of the police force, especially in New York City.
Yes, and when we went to the 7-0, it was the same thing. Exactly. You had every kind of cop. There were Hispanic, there were men, there were women, there were blacks, there were Asians. There was it was a melting pot. It was literally New York City in a room. And I don't understand why people don't see that, and why one bad cop brings down an entire nation's force. It's you're not even just saying it's the NYPD. You're basically saying that out of 50 states, there are bad cops in every single one of those states, and they're all the same. And I don't think that's fair. You wouldn't say that about anybody else. You wouldn't say all lawyers are exactly the same, all doctors are. So why are you lumping all the NYPD together? You take out the few bad apples, and you have amazing men and women.
100%.
And Linda, when you brought them the pizza yesterday, how did they feel? What did they say?
They were so grateful that we were appreciative of what they do. And I told them, I said, listen, I always tell my followers and anyone who's watching that nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop, because
100%.
they are the ones.
That is so true.
Yeah. And you cannot fight prejudice by pushing prejudice on others. That's just not the way to do it. And this is unfortunately what we're seeing now manifest itself in, the BLM movement, and it's very troubling to me. So the least we could do is show them appreciation. And you don't have to go to the station. For anyone listening, you don't have to go to the station and bring them pizza or donuts or anything. Even stopping them on the street and just saying, we're appreciative of what you do. Thank you so much. Just simple, kind words does so much. It goes such a long way.
It 100% does. Yeah, after the Jersey shooting, we had state troopers stationed in Brooklyn, and people were coming up to them, offering them drinks and food, and it made such a Kiddush Hashem. People were so impressed with the community, and it got back to us that the state troopers were just amazed at how much Hakar Satov we had to them, how well we treated them, how we appreciated their being here, that they didn't even mind driving from upstate all the way into Brooklyn to protect us because they knew that it was appreciated. And I think that was one of the questions that I asked Commissioner Shea last week. What do you want to say to your people? What do you want to say to them when they're being blasted every day in the media? And I think he answered very well. And he said, the first thing I want to say is thank you. And that's exact. Everybody wants to know that they're doing a good job, that people appreciate what they're doing. I love it when my boss comes over to me and says, wow, Mrs. Deutsch, you did a great job today. Thank you. It's nice to hear it every once in a while.
I love it too from my boss, if he's listening.
100%.
Well, you hear it all the time from me. I always tell Tova how amazing she is.
It's so true what you're saying, and I think that when we were out, I think it was a precinct you weren't with us. We went to the 61st precinct.
We took Remy.
And we took Remy, your daughter, and one of the cops was saying how she was standing outside the precinct, and a bunch of cars drove by, and they started honking, and just instinctively she was on guard because they've been subjected to a lot of nasty comments and a lot of rudeness. And then the people in the cars rolled down the window and they started saying, thank you, thank you. And she said it was like the best part of her whole day. She was on guard. She thought she was about to be attacked, and instead she got a nice, friendly reaction. So I thought that was really special. I wanted to ask another question of the panel. So one thing that all of you ladies have in common is that you're either mothers or grandmothers or both. Can you speak about how motherhood has influenced or not influenced your brand of advocacy? And Yelena, can we start with you?
Sure, we can start with me. I mean, a few days ago, I promised to go to my daughter and see my granddaughter, but I was kind of busy. So my granddaughter, 3 years old, said, Baba is not coming. Baba is busy helping people.
Aww, so that's so sweet.
And when you deal with your children, and you see, especially my house was always full of my children's friends, and it's also community. So working for community, to me, meaning also working for my family. So it gives me strength, it gives me courage. Unfortunately, it takes time from me from being good mother and grandmother, but since my 3-year-old understands that Baba is helping people, so...
Sounds like you're doing something right if she even knows at 3 years old.
Yeah, if I may, I want to add something to the previous topic, the Russian-speaking community. I'm very proud of my community. We have a movement. It's not only in New York, it's all around the United States. We call it Blue Tuesday. Every Tuesday, people go to different police precincts to stand them. So, I mean, I'm very proud. I worked with police for 18 years, and they're friends. And unfortunately, everything what's going on, I believe it's politically driven, and it should stop. That's it.
Thank you, Yelena. We appreciate that. Going back to the question about motherhood, Allison, your mom, how many kids do you have?
I have 4 kids, Kananahara, 2 girls, 2 boys. The oldest will be, God willing, getting a license in a few weeks, which is kind of insane.
Good luck.
Yeah. So how has motherhood changed my advocacy? I mean, I've kind of always been a lifelong advocate of standing up for what I thought was right. The first person I had to stand up to was my own father, who was judging my becoming observant, and I had to tell him, you have no right to an opinion if you don't know anything, so if you want to save me from this cult, then start learning and start coming for Shabbos where I do, and then you can argue from the inside out. And then once he took up the challenge to learn and did a bit of learning, he became frum.
Wow.
And my entire family as well, but he was the toughest one in the group. I've been a lifelong advocate. What I hope is that my kids seeing me using my talents and standing up for what I believe in, I hope, and I believe it's informing their choices, that they have voices, that, they're looking to how they can better the world. Just like I said before, sort of starting off the day with gratitude and reminding the kids everything that they have. I tell my kids constantly, like, my parents raised me with this beautiful life, but I was missing this spiritual element. And Baruch Hashem, my husband and I have been blessed to be able to give my kids, so much of what I had growing up in terms of the emotional side and the Gashmiya side, but then also the spiritual side. And I tell them over and over again, you have everything, and you can't just keep this to yourself. You were given like an extra portion, so now go out to the world and see who was given less, because, sort of blessing is not delved out equally. And so I don't know if they'll follow in my exact path, but I hope that, my advocacy and, working on what I believe in is giving them the idea that, they want to take the blessing that they've been raised with and been so fortunate to have, and look to other people in the world and figure out how they can also make a difference.
I'm sure you're setting a fantastic example. And, I grew up in the home of a Rav, a community Rav. My father has a shul, and he was always outside of the house helping people. I mean, we just saw him on Shabbos. And I think that is what influenced me to want to go into public service and to work for the Klal and to help people. And so I definitely think that growing up in the home of someone like any one of you ladies will definitely have a positive impact on future generations. So I totally agree with you. Linda, how about you?
So I believe that, the best example is just practicing what you preach. And my kids, thank God, each and every one of them are chesed heads, and chesed means a lot to them. And I see it. They're all turning out to be wonderful people, and that's the best thing that, I could even think of it, that any mother would wish for. So I'm very proud that, they're following in my footsteps, each in their own way. And it just, pushes you to do more, because, it's the right thing to do. Also, you want to leave the best world for your children, so you keep fighting for justice, and and that's the best we can do.
That's so nice. I love that, Linda.
Thank you.
We only have a couple of minutes left, but I did want to ask all of you one more question. What advice would you have for young people, like many of our listeners, who are listening and they're getting inspired by what you're saying, and they're thinking, I want to help out. I want to be a more active member of my community. I want to get more civically engaged. I want to fight anti-Semitism. What kind of advice would you have for people like that? And Dr. Faye, you work a lot with young people, so I'd love to hear from you first.
It's a really good question. It's not an easy question to answer. What would I say to young people about getting involved and being passionate, right? A really great question. I think it's something that really comes from your heart. I don't know if you can instill it in somebody. I think that that's what I think. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what the other panelists say. I think it's about being a role model. I think it's about people seeing me and saying, wow, look at all the things she does. She manages to teach. She manages to have guests for Shabbos. She manages to take care of her mother. And she's so happy. I want to be happy too. So I'll just do the things that Dr. Faye does. And then they copy me. I think that's the only thing I can really think of that could impassion somebody. It's about seeing it in somebody else and maybe having a vision of becoming that person yourself.
I think that's true because
somebody actually said that to me when I became a professor, like years and years ago. They said, you know what your goal is? Your goal is for your student to look at you and say, I want to be you. So I think that would be my answer.
And I think that you're correct, because I see some of the rage kids who come through your home, and a lot of them emulate you. They're helpful, they're kind, they reach out to other people. They're really lovely. So I think you're 100% right. Yelena, let's jump to you. What advice do you have for the young people?
For young people, I would advise them to look around and start from helping your neighbors, helping your family, and look for a role model.
Sarah, how about you?
I think that there are a lot of organizations out there. Of course, Chesed starts in the home. You see your parents doing it, you're going to do it. But I think that our children today are very lucky that they're helped along with finding their path to Chesed through, like, the girls' high schools. They all have Chesed programs. You can work with children. You can tutor. You can work with the elderly. You can pack for Shabbos at Tomchei Shabbos. There's so many ways to get involved for young people, and it's really presented to them. You don't even have to go looking for it. It's like right there. So I think that's incredible. And again, just in the home, watch your parents, see what they do, see how they're kind to others. My father was known for tzedakah. That was his, big thing, and no matter where he went, he would just be pulling out wads. And, when Chaim was sitting Shiva and his brother Avrami was sitting next to him, people would come to me in Achamavel, and he would pull out money to give them. And I just think that when you see things like that in the home, you're going to want to do it for other people. It fulfills you. It makes you feel good when you give to others.
So that's good advice for young people and for parents who are listening. Emulate. Linda.
So I think people have to just start very small. Take one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. Find something you're passionate about. Start with that, and hopefully it'll grow.
Perfect. I love it. And Allison, we're going to end off with you.
Yeah, so sort of the talk of role models. It's not to say I didn't have role models. My parents are good people. They're wonderful people. They became from at 50 years old. But I didn't have that sort of chesed role model growing up, not observant. So really more my role model is the passion that comes from inside, and it really comes from seeing a problem in the world. And I would say it has to be the sort of thing where you see a problem, you have sort of an unusual way to fix it. It's even better if it's personal, either if it was something that you struggled with or someone close to you that you know struggled with. But when there's a problem that you can fix that has that personal side to it, then that can become a passion. That can be a fire in your belly. And when you start with that passion, that can get you on your, first few steps, and you don't have to have the whole picture plotted out, because when I started doing the city in 2007, I made my first video in 2005. Social media had barely been invented yet. And so I didn't even know what I was doing, because I knew that there was a new way to talk online and tell stories that was in our hands now, but it hadn't even come out yet. And I quit my job to pursue something that didn't even have a clear-cut plan, which was kind of crazy. But I was so sort of fueled by that passion that jumping in and getting started with the first few steps led me to the next few steps and the next few steps. So I would say find your passion by looking for a problem that you can solve, and it's better off if that problem is personal in some way that can fire your belly, and then jump right in to take the first few steps.
I think that's great. One step at a time, find something you're passionate about. You're all very wise. I'm feeling very, very inspired right now, and I really want to thank each and every one of you for being here on the show. I want to thank Dr. Chaim. Thank you.
Tova, you are awesome.
I think you did a great job. We're going to have to talk to your boss about doing this more often.
Yeah,
well, I want to thank him for trusting me enough to take the helm.
I'm hoping that he's listening, and I'm sure he's sitting there and smiling, knowing that his wife is on the show, knowing that his chief of staff is on the show, and you did an amazing job, both of you. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Linda and Allison, Yelena, Sara. You are all wonderful role models for our community. I also just want to thank Gibran for manning the phones, and I think that's it. I just want to wish all our listeners have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful Shabbos, and we'll talk to you next week.